Peace, peace, family. Come on in, come on in. Peace, peace, family. Come on in. It's been a minute since I've been live. A nice little minute since I've been live in this office. What's going on? This is Imam? Is that you? I can't really see the picture. It looks like you a little bit. All right, Black Power. Black Power, Black Power. Today I'm going to just touch on why I became a lawyer. I see my brother Ed is on. Peace. Peace, everybody. Come on in. I'll get started on my spiel in like a minute. Just want to see who else can come on. Won't be long, but I will be strong, right? Yeah, come on in, come on in. Cool. So peace, family. Thank you for tuning in. For those who don't know, I'm back in the States, unfortunately. I enjoyed my time in Zanzibar when I was in Tanzania, East Africa. Being able to build with the brothers and sisters there, on the continent. Okay. Actually, I will start doing like weekly free consults for the community. So yeah, I'm trying to determine if I'm going to make that on Thursdays. I feel like I want to do Thursdays with that, but we'll see. But yeah, so I'm back in the States, getting things popping. I wanted to talk to the family just about why I became a lawyer, because a lot of times I find a lot of young people out there that want to go to law school because either they want to help or they want to be lawyers because it's always I can debate well, or not argue all the time, something like that. You get a lot of them also that will say, oh, I can write, so that's why I want to be a lawyer, or I want to help people. That's like the biggest thing. I want to help people. And for me, that was me. I wanted to help people. Initially, like the very first time that I got interested in anything dealing with law or being a lawyer in the legal field at all was when I was very young. I had to have been maybe 5 or 6 or something like that. And during that time, the O.J. Simpson trial was going on. And of course, everybody knows about Johnnie Cochran. Johnnie Cochran, he's like the upper echelon of black lawyers, right? Just lawyers, period, to be honest. And his work is incredible. Peace be upon his name. He's an ancestor now, but his work was incredible. But during that time, I remember seeing this black man on TV representing this high profile client and just killing it, right? Crushing it. I couldn't put it to words back then because I was young, but everybody was seeing watching the trial at that point. So I remember going to school, elementary school, and dressing in a suit and tie and a briefcase, my father's briefcase, for career day. And during that time is when I was telling everybody, yeah, I want to be a lawyer. And then it started with me helping, though, and how I got into special ed law is the same kind of thing. Back then, I used to assist those that were disabled, had disabilities, to come to our school. So I'd be like the point of contact and helping people uh, get to where they need to go and stuff like that. Always a man for the people, right? Uh, so fast forward, I was told when I was in high school that the only way that you can become a lawyer is to take political science. So that's why took political science as an undergrad major, and it was cool. It talked about the body politic of things, and it wasn't really. It was like one of those type of classes. I enjoyed my comrades and my colleagues, but as far as the topic is concerned, I'll be honest. Like, I graduated not knowing anything about political science because it was just boring. It was another way to get into politics, for a lot of people. But for me, I'm like, I graduated. I don't feel like I have the skills or the know-how to actually get a job in a political science field, whatever that would be, uh, governments, I suppose. But I knew that I wanted to go to law school, so I took a year. So from my undergrad, I graduated in 2010. So from then to 2012, I took a year and a half off about, and I worked in the DC area where I'm from, and did a research and retrieval job where I would go to different courthouses and the different go to the different courthouses, go to the different government agencies and things like that, and deliver documents, pick up documents, read them, review them, stuff like that. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it's getting me close to being a lawyer, right? Getting me close to getting into law school. So that following was at summer 2012. Actually, no, we started in the beginning of 2012 is when the Trayvon Martin thing, when Trayvon Martin was shot and killed. And I remember during that time being extremely sad because I was like, I don't understand why, and I don't have didn't have the consciousness then that I have now. But I said I don't understand why that had to happen. The brother was so young, those type of things. So that summer, I got accepted into North Carolina Central University School of Law, which is where I graduated from. And going down to North Carolina, the very first day, I think, when we were in our it was a class that we were in, and we stood up to introduce ourselves. And I remember standing up, introducing myself, and saying that I wanted to be a civil rights attorney. Now, I'm sorry, no, I think it was an international human rights attorney, if I'm not mistaken. So, going throughout, the year, I'm doing everything that your prototypical petty bourgeoisie attorney would do, or law student would do, you know. Um, Studying hard, which isn't solely for that. You got to do that when you're in school anyway. But like the mentality was, I'm gonna get this good job at a law firm, and just be good and do what I think I need to do to help my people out, right? So so after that, during that process, uh, is when I went to South Africa for the first time. Went to South Africa first time off the continent of America, and then to the continent of Africa, and being able to see, my people everywhere. It was just a completely different experience that I had, and it really changed my perspective because you saw black people that were going through the same thing that we were going through back in the United States on the continent in South Africa. And South Africa has a shared history with the United States because apartheid was very similar to segregation in the United States, so we kind of can relate. So I took a video camera, started recording, doing all those things, interviewing people, and I'm like, you know what? This story needs to be told. People need to come here, right? And then when I got back to law school, that's when my perspective changed about everything, because it made me more conscious of our place within the society, not only in the United States but the international community as a whole. And I'm like, all right, well, I wanna practice on that type of level. When I was out there, I even met international lawyers, so international human rights lawyers. So I was asking them, picking their brain, how do I do this? How do I do that? Those type of things. And they were like, okay, well, you got to practice in the States first, and then you can go to the international level like that. Peace, sis. Happy birthday too, once again. But yeah, so I did that, came back, and then because I was doing the film work, I'm like, I don't know if I want to finish law school because I like this film and I like interviewing people and going abroad and doing those type of things. So I talked to a couple of professors about it. But then I remember when I spoke to my professor, Irvin Joyner, who's a civil rights attorney down in North Carolina. And I was just talking to him about how I was feeling and things like that. And he shared with me about essentially the glass ceiling of being a lawyer, right? And how, you can do a lot of things within the law, but you're still like kind of stuck within the barriers of being a lawyer and where you're barred at. So being barred means that you're licensed in particular jurisdictions. So for me, now I'm licensed in Maryland and DC, but then of course it's law, so you're not licensed anywhere. So as we were talking about that and just the injustices, I'm like, I can probably do more if I was in film than I would be as a lawyer, as far as impacting the community and the masses of people without any type of barriers. So let's see, after that, the next year I went to Ghana, but all the while I'm still doing stuff within the legal profession and the legal field, so that way I can kind of build my resume up and get the experience. Go to Ghana, do the exact same thing, organize, build, things like that. So my perspective changed going into my 3L year, my third year in law school, because at that time I'm about to graduate. I'm like, all right, well, I need I need to work. I need to get income. I'm not gonna say a job, but I need to get some income, and we gotta figure out how it works. And I never took any law clinics when I was in school, which means that wasn't paired with an attorney to go to I wasn't paired with any attorney to go to court, to go through that process and all those type of things. So I graduate, and I'm like, you know what? I want to be mentored by somebody and not really be in their firm, but have my own thing, but also get the guidance and stuff like that. And that's what I did when I first graduated and got out. I ended up working with Fareed Nassar Hayat, who was a awesome attorney. Like I tell him all the time, like I essentially bite my style from him, and just the way he was able to showcase how to be a lawyer, it made it so practical, because you have this idea of what a lawyer is and what they're supposed to do, even as lawyers, young lawyers, and to see him at work and him make it so easy and tangible. But he also did research. He also was up late studying and working and coming up with different arguments and stuff like that. So that's what kind of got me like, okay, I can do this. But then it became, all the while I wanted to help people, but it was really emphasized once I got out and I was paired with him and then Malik Zulu Shabazz and some others that were attorneys that actually did things in the community to help build up the community. And I'm like, yo, okay. And that's how I kind of got my niche of what I wanted to do, and as I had the degree. Now let's talk about the image. So a couple of times while as I am an attorney, you get a lot of young brothers come up to me and they're just surprised, whether it be the locks or just how I move and operate or maneuver. They're like, "You're an attorney?" I'm like, "Yeah," or if I'm representing them, they're just so, taken aback by peace, Phoebe. We got to talk too, by the way. But yeah, just so taken aback by me being an attorney and somebody that they can relate to. Because again, growing up, Johnnie Cochran was on TV, but I never saw anybody in person that actually was an attorney, so it still was kind of far-fetched in my mind. But being able to now be an attorney and kind of go around kids, there was one time where I was in Baltimore sitting on a stoop doing my community work, and a little kid came up to me, offered me a hot dog. I said I didn't eat meat because I'm a vegan. And then he asked me if I was, somehow we got on being an attorney, I forget. And he was like, "You're an attorney, but you're here." And I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, nah, but we don't see y'all in the community like you're here. I'm like, yeah, I'm a different type of attorney, but being able to just change the narrative of what attorneys are and how they're perceived and the influence that they have. You can say what you want about how it's a part of the system, or you're still effectuating some type of oppression, because some people have that type of cut when it comes to attorneys. But for me, it's those type of impacts that I have, the being able to be accessible to young folks, that they can come up and ask questions about the law. I do know your rights classes, like I was saying earlier, for those that just joined in. Every week I'm gonna start doing some know your rights type sessions on here online, and then also we're gonna have some Q&As. So if you have any questions about the law, feel free, so long as it's in the areas that I practice. Some other things, I would have to check with other attorneys or refer out. But yeah, that's like the story, and that's how it's been. So for those that actually want to go to law school, for me it was 4 years of undergrad and then 3 years of being in law school. In law school, they have this thing in law school. The first year they scare you to death. Second year they work you to death. Third year they bore you to death, and that's true. The first year you get, and I'll give an example. So I have a book here. This is actually a book that I refer to when I'm doing my student cases, my school cases. So the Maryland School Code. But you can see the thickness of it, right? So you normally get law books like this, and you can have how many classes? Let's just say your first year, property towards contracts. So let's just say like 6 classes, and all of your books look like that. So how they do the assignments is you may have to read 15 pages, but a book like this, like I said, 15 pages of this, you may think you can get through it in like an hour. No, it took me, for 15 pages in a book like that, because you're reading case law, it took me about 3 hours to get through, because you got to break down the case, you got to figure out what the fact patterns of the case. You have to understand that. You have to understand what the logic was, the reasoning behind why they ruled the way that they ruled, the court. And then, in case you get professors that want to read the footnotes, or ask you questions about the footnotes, because you have the Socratic method when you're in law school, which means that I'm not going to answer the question for you. I'm going to keep asking you questions until you get the right answer. And it's a great way to make you think, but it's so intimidating sometimes, especially when you're new to it, or if you read it. Like, there was one time when I was in school, and I think I read the case maybe a week before I got called on, and I was just joking with our tutor that's in the class that sat up there by me, and I said, you're gonna help me if I get called on today, right? She's like, oh no, you got it. Sure enough, the professor called on me, and the brother was like fumbling, because I knew parts of the case because it was a week ago, so like I knew parts of it, but I wasn't as eloquent as I could have been. So the professor was like, all right, well, I'm gonna give you to the weekend, and then on Monday come back and be prepared. And I was like, all right, say less. But being able to be prepared, that's one thing that law school does teaches you, is to how to be prepared, for your cases. So when you become a lawyer, you spend a lot of time working these cases, up late hours, all hours of the night. Sometimes you have to cancel plans just to finish and make sure that you advocate for your client. A lot of people don't really understand how much time and effort goes into being an attorney, or may think that because the final product may be 1 page long, you think that, oh, you did that in 20 minutes. Nah, like sometimes you got to read cases over and over again. Sometimes you got to dig and research for 4 or 5 hours just to get to that 1 page, that it's reduced to, or like a contract that you are signing. If we have to type that, a 2-page contract may not take an hour to do that. It may take 5 hours. It depends on what's in the contract and how detailed and specific that you want it. So a lot of times, the work is, you got to pull up your sleeves and go to it. It's not pretty at all. And then other times you got your highlights and your moments where, you're winning your cases or you're winning an argument, or even the battles of the paperwork, battles of the form, when it's like settlements and things like that. But so long as you're advocating strong for your client, I think that's what matters, and them being satisfied, but also understanding the work that goes on, into being an attorney. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my story, being a lawyer. Peace, bro. I think we actually got some young folks in here too that was thinking about being a lawyer. But for those that just tuned in, I'm about to close this out. But for those that just tuned in, what I'm gonna do is this the rest of the month of August, and then, well, it's only really 1 week left, and probably September and October for sure. I'm gonna start doing like Know Your Right sessions during the week, maybe once a week, or maybe once every 2 weeks. But some of them, some Q&As, so you can have access to asking me questions. So long, once again, I practice in Maryland and DC, so it would have to be limited to that unless you're talking about constitutional issues, because I know a lot of people may have questions about police brutality and how to, what we deem as excessive force cases, but how to interact with police officers and things like that. Issues along those lines are federal, so we can talk about it as attorneys. But when it's state specific stuff, if you're talking about, you have a issue with your child's mom or your child's dad, something like that, or maybe some real estate property type issues, that's state specific. So if you're not in Maryland, DC, I can't answer them. But anything that's dealing with civil rights violations, disability rights, things like that, workplace discrimination, because that's going on, the coronavirus and the COVID-19 and people, the mandate with the vaccinations and stuff like that, I probably will end up talking about that too. And just a little preview of that is, if they mandated statewide, then technically the Supreme Court has already ruled that that's legal. So, just any and everything for the most part, so that way an attorney can be accessible and we can kind of break this veil of what you believe an attorney is, versus the reality of it. All right, people. So I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks a lot. Hit me for any questions that you may have. My DMs stay open. And then also make sure you tune in, you follow my law firm page, The Saber Firm, as well, because that's more driven toward legal content. This is my personal page, so I may talk about legal stuff on it, but I also do a lot of other things outside of the law. So yeah, appreciate you. Peace.